Architectural design acts as an involuntary medical intervention, forcing specific biological states onto the human nervous system. Traditional spatial aesthetics focus purely on visual appeal. The 𝗪𝗏scape mechanism, however, isolates the environment's biological utility. It functions as an architectural tool engineered for immediate, measurable stress reduction in patients and guests. The human body reacts to spatial parameters in fractions of a second. It processes the environment long before the conscious mind registers the dimensions of the room. For clinical directors, ignoring environmental design is equivalent to ignoring a baseline biological metric. The core challenge lies in reliably forcing a transition from acute external stress to a controlled state of internal calm. True wellness architecture relies entirely on measurable physiological inputs, redefining the physical space as a precise biological tool. Navigating chaotic external urban environments actively forces the human brain into an involuntary state of acute sympathetic alertness. Upon crossing the threshold into a controlled interior, the brain requires less than 60 seconds to initiate a physiological transition. This 60-second window serves as the single most critical intervention point for wellness architecture. The exact target end state for this intervention is the neutral point, a complete cessation of defensive biological posturing. Standard, low-ceilinged clinical environments routinely fail to trigger this transition, leaving patients trapped in a state of low-grade anxiety. Optimized environments are explicitly designed to dismantle this alert state the moment a person enters the room. Achieving the neutral point is not a psychological request made of the guest. It is a biological mandate dictated by the room. Spatial volume acts as the primary architectural tool for pulling the nervous system out of sympathetic arousal. This visualizes the cathedral effect. As an architectural space expands upward, autonomic nervous system arousal follows a direct downward trend. The data highlights the specific threshold where expansive volume physically signals the brain to drop alertness. The evolutionary biology driving this reaction relies on spatial awareness. Open overhead spaces remove the subconscious threat of confinement. With that environmental threat removed, the brain immediately reallocates its resources from spatial defense to internal rest. High ceilings serve directly as a foundational neurospatial trigger that creates biological safety. Moving beyond pure spatial dimensions, precisely engineered-born biochemical interventions provide a powerful second layer of involuntary architectural control. Precise olfactory stimuli function as a direct bypass, entirely circumventing the conscious mind. Anatomically, the olfactory bulb connects straight to the amygdala, completely sidestepping the analytical frontal lobe. Introducing specific natural compounds, such as the diffusion of hinoki or cedarwood, actively leverages this pathway. This chart tracks the resulting clinical outcome. The introduction of these specific phytoncides triggers an immediate drop in salivary cortisol levels. The exact intersection of these lines marks the precise moment the parasympathetic nervous system engages. This chemical grounding of the body occurs entirely before any verbal interaction takes place between clinician and guest. Slower, traditional relaxation techniques require active effort from the patient to achieve a similar result. Olfactory intervention bypasses that requirement, chemically forcing the body into a receptive state and guaranteeing a suppressed stress baseline. The holistic integration of spatial and biochemical elements creates what is known as nervous system architecture. Ambient shadows, expansive volumes, and phytoncite scents must be tuned together with exact intent. This anatomical map illustrates the vagus nerve, the primary biological receptor processing this unified environmental frequency. The physical space acts as a continuous, passive stimulant to the afferent fibers of this nerve. This targets a critical operational distinction, the difference between cognitive wellness and a precognitive biological reset. Cognitive wellness relies on the guest actively trying to relax, an approach that inherently produces friction. A precognitive biological reset requires absolute zero effort from the individual. True environmental optimization relies on successfully executing this effortless, involuntary physiological shift. Architectural design operates as a functional component of human physiology, separate from aesthetic luxury. By intentionally architecting spatial volumes and olfactory triggers, physical spaces guarantee specific, measurable biological responses. The final clinical outcome ensures that stress markers are minimized without relying on patient cognition. Through the service escape mechanism, the nervous system is reliably and passively returned to a state of baseline balance. This breakdown redefines the physical spaces we inhabit, transforming static environments into active instruments for human recovery.